Happy New Year. Our last
Happy
one came out on Christmas.
New Year. I was gonna sing, what is that? Auld Lang Syne or whatever. I don't know, the New Year's thing.
No idea.
The like, no. Yeah, I don't even know the fucking words. So
I got nothing.
Scratch that. That actually just let's
Pretend it didn't
restart the
happen.
tape. Restart the tape.
Roll it back.
Let's chat.
Mhm.
Let's chat. We are in a new year.
We
We're in
are.
a new year. What we're not going to do is bring bullshit from last year into this year. So today we're going to talk about what it means or looks like, or what it means or what it looks like to be fired from therapy.
Quote unquote fired.
If your therapist fires you, right? And I feel like that carries a heavier tone than it really needs to, right? Because I think that people are like,
Of course.
when you get fired from a job or whatever, but realistically, I don't think that there's any other way to put it.
Mhm.
Like when the therapeutic relationship ceases to exist, like
Yes.
fired.
Yes.
So we figured it would be good to talk about this, because it's happened recently, and it's also happened at other points in our careers. I feel like, have you fired somebody? I feel like
Yeah.
you have. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, we fired quite a few of them, but I
Not
can't.
a few. I was
Stephanie,
out here
you have
fucking giving
had
pink slips.
Stephanie, you have had some heavy cases. Okay, I don't mean like you're like fuck yeah, like, but I mean some of the people, some of the things we have case consulted on. I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So that's how I mean that. That was my intent behind that.
No, I know. I'm
I
just
feel like
teasing
we're
you.
gonna get off here and I'm gonna be like, oh yeah. I feel like it is going to be. I just thought of another one that I fired. Yeah. So there's been a few. There's been a gaggle.
Part
A
of
gaggle,
this
if you
part of this came to me because it's happened in recent times, but also I think it's really important that people take a step back when they read reviews online or when they hear word of mouth of somebody's experience. I am not saying to not believe somebody, but I can
Right.
tell you from experience, I have had a bad review left for me on Google from my job that was completely false because this person was
100%.
mad. And then it
Yeah.
makes me look like the asshole. And so I'm
Yeah.
just out here in the world living life while people are talking shit about me on Google review as a therapist. And that's
Yeah.
not fair because it's not accurate.
100%.
It's not an accurate depiction of what actually happened. It's somebody who's disgruntled and mad and throwing a tantrum and they want me to look bad. So like that is a
100%.
thing.
It is. Oh, 100%. There's one on Pathways, Google reviews about me. No, yeah, like 100%. You were upset that I put a boundary in place.
Mm-hmm.
You late canceled on me entirely too many times. You had state insurance. So with state insurance, you can't charge a late cancellation fee. So if this just keeps happening, it's just these sessions are sitting open
Mm-hmm.
where I could be seeing other people to be able to get them in, especially during times like the holidays. Like
Mm-hmm.
December was wild for late cancellations, which I can hold space for understanding that life is crazy.
Yeah.
We forget things like that. However, it is also, you have to keep in mind like this, like I'm not saying it's okay to do to a hairdresser. I'm just saying in terms of like a hairdresser being canceled on versus a therapist being canceled on, I have people who are not doing well during the
Mm-hmm.
holiday. And I can't help that they didn't maybe book themselves out or like get their appointments that they needed. However, I could offer them these spots, but if you're late canceling 10 minutes before the session or like literally 10 minutes into this session,
Mm-hmm.
somebody can't get to my office in time for that or
Correct.
like rearrange their day like that. So it's also that aspect too of like,
Well,
you
it's
don't
that, and it's
understand how
also
that's.
this is our job. This is how we
Yes.
support our family. So, like, this isn't
Yes.
just like a hobby. Like, I have to make money.
Yeah, like I literally have to feed my kid.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
yeah,
rent out here
my
is
mortgage
ridiculous.
is
But
yeah,
let's,
my mortgage is due. It's
right.
due. So
And I think people, I don't know if people forget that sometimes. It's not like a doctor where, like, oh, I'm just not going to show up to my doctor's appointment and they make a salary. I don't get that. You don't come,
mhm,
I don't get paid.
mhm. I think that people do forget it, and I think that sometimes it's taken advantage of, whether it's intentional or not, that there's this thought process that, well, like, you're in a helping
Yeah,
profession.
we should be empathetic. Mhm.
Yeah, and I am.
Mhm.
I am. Just because I am not pushover or somebody who will people please
Mhm.
doesn't mean that I'm not being empathetic. Just because I won't allow you to do whatever you've been doing
Mhm.
doesn't mean that it makes me a bad person.
Correct.
So, reasons, I think there's an obvious reason as to why somebody would get fired from therapy, which would
Mhm.
be what we're talking about. Late cancellations, no shows. After a certain amount of time, we have to put that boundary in place and protect ourselves. And while I understand that maybe you might be going through something and it comes at the worst possible timing, but
Mhm.
like, this is what we've been trying to work on in
Mhm.
therapy. Like, being mindful, being present, being aware of like what's going on. Like, I don't know, I don't know what other way to say it. Like,
Mhm.
you know where you're at with late cancellations. Like, I discussed that with people of like, okay, this is considered a late cancel, whether or not there is a fee associated, because sometimes people haven't paid and it's canceled. And so like, I can't charge that fee. But if they've paid and they're canceling 10 minutes before their session, then yeah, like, hopefully put that policy in place. And I know that you have one too. And I think
Mhm.
anybody puts those policies, excuse me, those policies in place to hopefully negate this from happening, like to
Mhm.
hopefully like steer away from this ever happening. But I mean, it still does. And so
Mhm.
that is, I've definitely um let go of clients for that purpose.
Do you consider referring somebody to a higher level of care as firing them?
No,
I don't either.
I don't, because I consider that like,
I think people could perceive it that way, though. I couldn't be helped.
sure, I could see that people could perceive it that way, but also it comes back to like, my license is on the line.
Mhm.
And what I am not going to play with is my license.
Mhm.
It took me 8+ years to get to this point of undergrad, then graduate, then my hours, and then licensing. I'm not going to give that up because you don't have time to go to a higher level of care. If
Mhm.
you're telling me that you're actively suicidal, you will not safety plan with me, you do have access to means, you don't have a support system, my hands are tied.
Yep.
My hands are absolutely tied. So I can understand that it may feel like that. Also, another way that it might feel like that too is if you refer them to a different specialist.
Sure.
Like, I don't treat OCD, I don't treat eating disorders, I don't treat substance abuse. So if I'm
Mhm.
saying, if this is like turns into, and that is how I did have to fire a client, of like, it turned into like an AODA situation, and I'm not a substance abuse therapist.
Yep.
And so I think a lot of the perception is like, you're a therapist, you should be able to help everybody with
Yep.
everything. But that is entirely unethical. I
That
can't
is
help with
false.
everything. That would be like going to a doctor being like, well, why can't you treat my diabetes, my heart condition,
Mhm.
my ingrown toenail, my cancer? Like, you can't possibly know everything. That's
Yep.
fucking ridiculous. So no, I'm not going to. That's unethical. I could lose my license for that. That's
Mhm.
also what I don't think people understand. And so I try to, in those moments when I'm having these conversations, verbalize these things and discuss why I'm doing what I'm doing or why I'm recommending what I'm recommending. But I do think that a lot of people don't listen to that and don't care. And I
Yep.
can't control whether or not people listen,
Correct. Or whether or not they
but I'm
care.
also, well, and I'm also not gonna spend the next 4 months taking your money spiraling in every session because I don't know what the fuck to do with you.
I just had that happen with a young kid who he's not a kid, he's an adult, but like I told him from the jump, I don't treat substance abuse. We can address different ways of coping and treat it that way, but if this becomes an issue and that becomes a primary concern, like I'm gonna refer you out. Well, lo and behold, it became an issue and I was like, here's what has to happen. And then he said to me, "Yeah, I even thought like in the summer that's what I wanted to do." Then why didn't you say that? Then why didn't you advocate for yourself and say, I think I do want to do the AO to therapist instead? I told you that from the jump. But I
Mhm.
also think he wasn't
Mhm.
being fully honest with me about how much he was using
Sure.
until it
Yeah,
then
I think
became a
that
bigger
happens a lot.
problem.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot with people, that
Mhm.
they're not open and honest about that. And here's the thing, if you wanna use like, I can't control what you do in your life.
Mhm.
I just know that the type of therapy that I'm asking you to do, the mode that I utilize is asking you to be present and aware of your thoughts and do actionable steps to challenge those thoughts. You can't do that when you're under the influence of something. You can't. So like, it's just, it's not going to work. And so why sit and try to placate my feelings? You don't create
You're not
feelings
gonna
for
hurt
me.
my
I
feelings.
don't like,
Yeah.
exactly. If I'm not the therapist for you, I'm not the therapist for you. I would
Correct.
much rather somebody get help than attempt to be like, well, Mari's going to be upset. I think I will.
Yeah.
I will not. So I think that's also something that needs to be understood. And I review that quite often of like, do you feel like this